What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, and Premier League football is back after it didn't seem like that much of a break, to be honest, with the Euros and the Olympics in between. Lots of sport to watch, but the Premier League, the most exciting league in the world, is back, and Arsenal, can this be our year? I should be really excited, but I'm not. And I'm trying to work out why. And this video is me reaching out to you. I'm going to give some reasons why I think I'm a little bit unexcited by the season to come. And then I want to hear from you as well. But really, the season kicked off as much as you'd hoped it would do. We beat Wolverhampton Wanderers. It was a comfortable victory and a clean sheet. Fantastic save by David Raya. No real questions around who our number one goalkeeper is anymore. I did find it really interesting that David Raya joined Arsenal in order to secure the goalkeeper position ahead of the Euros for Spain. Ramsdale wanted to play so he could secure possibly ahead of Jordan Pickford, which never really seemed likely. And in the end, they both ended up reaching the final of the Euros on the bench. But David Raya is now our number one goalkeeper, and there is still a lot of speculation about Ramsdale leaving, which I think will happen. So, fantastic save from him. Goal and assist from Bukayo Saka. A lot of the questions that we had to endure last season as Arsenal fans is who's better, Foden or Saka. I think they'll go away now. They're different players, and we could say they're as good as each other. That's not a problem, is it? And, of course, Kai Havertz with a goal and assist as well. And you do wonder, or at least I do, if he plays up front in that 9 position all season, can he be a 20-goal-a-season player? I don't see why not. I think we have a realistic chance of getting goals like we did last season. I mean, on the surface of it, everything, the line-up against Wolverhampton Wanderers was pretty much our first team from last season. Well, it was our first team from last season. You might not feel like Zinchenko is the best player in that position. And I would guess if Jurrien Timber hadn't picked up a bit of an injury beforehand, we probably would have seen him start there. And, of course, we have added Ricardo Calafiora, the player with the aura, who has been likened to Paolo Maldini and Ramos. I talk about setting the bar a little bit high. He's a young player. He's had one really good season at Bologna. I think he has got an aura about him. I am really excited to see. But he's a project player. I don't see him slotting straight in. I don't think he's going to take Gabriel's position off him straight away. But overall, we have added to what was the best defence in the league last season. And it looks more like Declan Rice is going to be playing in that 8th position, which I think he still has to learn his way into. And there's every chance we might sign, I don't know if you've heard of him, this guy called Mikel Merino. So all of the things I'm talking about, they're not necessarily lacking in excitement. After all, we do have a really realistic chance of winning the Premier League this season. Anyone who tells you we don't is mad. Last season came down to 1 goal. What do I mean by that? Well, Man City won the league by 2 points. So if we had not conceded to Palhinha's equaliser for Fulham early in the season, if we'd maintained a 2-1 advantage, we would have been champions. That's how close the margins are. So we have to be considered as a realistic contender for the title. When people are asked at the moment, do you think Man City will win it or Arsenal? You're asking someone to decide between two sides who had an incredibly equal season last season, who did almost exactly the same, the difference being Man City crossed the line. Watching the Olympics, you see that. The 100 metres final decided by 0.003 of a second. Which makes you think, in the ancient Olympics, would they have just given everybody the laurel wreaths? But in our society, we're desperate to know who is the best. Doesn't matter how fractional or marginal. Man City were the best team last season. They get all the plaudits. They did an unbelievable 4 in a row, which I didn't think that would be possible for them. I did question at the start of the season Pep Guardiola's hunger, the hunger of the team. But he demonstrated above all what a fantastic manager he is. The best we've ever had in the Premier League. How he is able to get extra levels out of players who you think have already reached their peak. And that's what we're facing again this season. And that's part of why it's difficult to get too excited. We have a run of fixtures coming up that are really troubling for me. So I want to list the reasons why at the start of this season doesn't feel as exciting to me and possibly you. And like I said, I do want to hear in the comments. Before we do that though, for a channel this size, every like makes a massive difference. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe. First reason I think that it's harder to get excited about the start of this season is that it's just a disappointment of coming second 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, we weren't expected to compete for the title. We came out of nowhere, were top for most of the season, all but a few weeks, and then just fell apart a little bit at the end. But it was exciting because suddenly we'd gone from being a team that couldn't qualify for the Champions League to one that could arguably challenge at the top of the table. But of course, everybody said it couldn't be done again and we'd missed our chance. Other teams had fallen away. Chelsea and Liverpool had a bad season. And so last season, I think we proved a lot of those people wrong. You don't hear that so much anymore. You don't hear, oh, Arsenal are a one-season wonder. People are now ready to accept that we have a really strong squad. Our first team is able to stand toe-to-toe with any team in the Premier League, at least, and possibly Europe. And we'll find out a little bit more about how good we are in Europe this season. And we'll find out a little bit more about how good we are in Europe this season. But this season's different. This season we go into it with all of the banter around how we're not quite good enough because we're millimetres behind Man City and miles ahead of everybody else. All the other teams and fans from all the other clubs can banter us about being nearly men, always a bridesmaid, that kind of stuff. And it is deeply frustrating, but it's more frustrating because there's a section of our own fans who seem completely unwilling to praise what's happened at Arsenal or how well we played in breaking our record for points last season. And it was a PB for us. Goals scored, points scored, the meanest defence in the league. Most seasons we would have won the league, but we were up against the best. In sport, it is just a fact that you can be at the top of your game. You can work really hard, strive towards a goal, and be so close to winning it. But the difference is you're just not quite as good as your opponent. Now, in our case, as I've already said, it's one goal the difference. Bit of fortune either way. Perhaps we are just exactly identical last season, but someone's got to win the gold. In the Olympics, the 100 metres is won by 0.003 of a second, right? But what it really reminded me of watching the Olympics was, take Katarina Johnson-Thompson. So Katarina Johnson-Thompson is a heptathlete who in 2012 finished 13 in the London Games, of course behind Jessica Ennis-Hill, who took the gold for Great Britain. And it really felt like perhaps the baton would be handed and Great Britain would continue this excellent track record we have in the heptathlon. And I love the heptathlon because it's so incredible to me that people can be not just at a training to be at the top of their game in one discipline, but in 7, and they're not similar. So to be on for 2 days to be at the top of your game in 7 different sports, it's an incredible achievement. Of course, since Jessica Ennis-Hill won the gold, a superstar has emerged, the Belgian Thiam. And she had won the previous 2 gold medals. So think about that. Brilliant in 7 disciplines, at the peak of your performance on the days when it matters, twice in 8 years. And going into this one, the hope was that KJT could beat her to gold. But Katarina Johnson-Thompson, for a series of problems, had never medalled in the Olympics. And, we know the life of an athlete is short. So this was going to be a last chance. In the end, it came down to the last event, the 800 metres. Thiam going for her 3rd consecutive gold medal, which is incredible. KJT going for her 1st Olympic medal. And if she could finish 8 seconds clear of Thiam, she would be the Olympic gold medalist. Her personal best was 6 seconds better, so she was looking for just a 2-second improvement, or for Thiam to underperform by 2 seconds. And in the event, those 2 seconds separated them. Think about that. Think about training your entire career for those 2 days of your event and failing to win by 2 seconds. And she looked deflated. She walked away with a silver medal, which is something that mere mortals will never achieve. And I remember really feeling like, come on, be proud of yourself. The whole country got behind her. Everyone was falling over themselves to say, you've got a silver medal. This is amazing. She wasn't the only British athlete to be praised for silver. But look, I understand it's sport. And second place to athletes who work as hard as they do to win, second place can often feel like first loser. And I know it feels like that for us as well. So going into this season, I don't think any of us can bear the idea that we'll get another silver medal or worse. So there is pressure on this season that certainly wasn't there 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or last season. And I feel like I'm feeling that a little bit. Certainly we've got some fixtures coming up which are, well, to say the least, tricky. We've got Aston Villa away on Saturday. Then we have Brighton at home. In a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment with their new manager, but things are certainly looking good for them. And then we've got Spurs away and Man City away. And look, I think if we get full points out of those, I will be excited about this season. But I've got this kind of sense of dread. And I think part of it is, as I said, it is just a disappointment of coming second and worrying about the endless discussion points about Arteta and how good we are or not because we come second again. But then there's also the really obvious fact that our transfer window wasn't as good as last season's or the seasons before. This transfer window has been about goalkeepers. As I said earlier, we look like we're selling Ramsdale or that he might be going on loan to Wolves. Certainly think that we've got people lined up to come instead of him. I'm surprised we didn't make more of a bid for Wojciech Szczesny. He's a free agent and would count as a homegrown player. What a great deputy, a Serie A winner, brilliant goalkeeper, Arsenal through and through. Let's get him back. That would be my view, but it doesn't look like they're going for that. And we, of course, signed 2 young goalkeepers. So we seem to be doing well in the goalkeeper department. And as we know, we signed Califiora. But who else have we signed? But this saga with Marino, this dragging on over a signing that could be 25 to 30 million. I don't think this has anything to do with our budget, by the way. But I'm not necessarily frustrated in how drawn out this saga is because I don't think there's any chance he wants to go anywhere else. I don't think he's going anywhere else. We seem to just be haggling on the amount of time we have to pay for the transfer. And I think that's good. We know that he's not going anywhere else, so we can play hardball. We could walk away from this and it wouldn't be the end of the world for Arsenal fans. Although I think that having a player who's capable of winning duels like he is, who seems as comfortable as he is on the ball, and of course scored a winning goal in the Euros. It's an exciting prospect, and a couple of you had flagged that he was a really good player before. So I'm really excited about it, but it is frustrating that the saga's drawn on. But what's interesting to me is that the narrative now has changed to, well, we don't really need any transfers. And certainly we don't need anyone up front. And that's nonsense. We know that's nonsense. I don't really appreciate it when people change the narrative and just act like I'm being a bit slow. Going into this transfer window, there were positions we needed to augment, strengthen. It has become clear that Mikel Arteta did not trust the bench last season. Emil Smith-Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Fabio Vieira and Reiss Nelson barely used, even when you could have thrown them on. No young players used at all. And of course, that looks different this season with Ethan Nwaneri, much talked about, hopefully bringing a little bit of courage and flair and something dynamic and different to the team. And also Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I am hopeful will get some minutes. He had a fantastic game against Manchester United in the under-21s. Watch that. Watch the highlights of it at least. There's one moment of absolutely sublime magic from him that leads to a goal. So we have, I know I've said this in the past, maybe don't have enough coming through the academy, but there's a few reasons to be optimistic at least. But this transfer window, people are now starting to say we didn't need anyone. Well, if you don't trust Eddie and we're desperately trying to sell him, and I don't know why that sale didn't go through to Marseille, it felt like it was close enough, we should have taken it. We're looking to replace the bench, or are we supposed to believe that Mikel Arteta now, after having a bit of a break with the family over summer, has gone, you know what, I do rate them. They are brilliant. They are going to play in key games. And we are going to be able to give Bukayo Saka a rest because Nelson's going to come on. And I thought Reiss Nelson looked really good in the pre-season, but that's a stretch, isn't it? So whilst I'm not necessarily saying we should go out and sign Rafinha, I do see that we need something in that forward line. There's also the question of if Martinelli's going to have a good season or not. I don't think he played that badly last season, and I think he could play on the right. Like we saw that against Wolves. So maybe we don't need desperately to go out and sign a Nico Williams, but it'd be great, wouldn't it? And why aren't we more in the conversation with some of these big players? And so when it comes to it, it's still eminently possible that Eddie and Reece will go. And if they go, we're losing homegrown players, but we're also losing bench. Our bench looked pretty strong against Wolves with Gabby Jesus on it, Calafiori, Jurrien Timber, of course. But we're going to need to rotate this squad, something that I've been critical of Arteta for a while. And this season has to change. So with just 10 days left of the transfer window, do I think we're going to see enough players come in to really make a meaningful difference? Are we waiting for January where players are more expensive? Is that the strategy? We're not the only team that's not out there spending money. There just aren't the marquee players available. But I think one of the things that really surprised me is a report in 442 quoting Sky, where Sky had said that Edu on the tour of America had met with a small group of Arsenal fans and had said to them that by the end of this transfer window we would be excited. Well, I hope he's right, because I'm not excited yet, and one of the reasons is the transfer window. I really hope that at the end of this transfer window I am excited. Whether that's bringing in Victor Osimhen or not, I don't know. Gyökeres, I don't know, but just something to look forward to, something a little bit different, because as successful as we were last season, the Wolves game was just it was a touch samey and a little underwhelming in terms of energy. Now, we will, I'm sure, have been saving our energy for some of the bigger games coming up, and we would always have expected to beat Wolves, and we did. But then finally, there's just the fact that improving 5 years in a row has never happened, apparently, in the Premier League. According to Gary Neville on Monday Night Football. Or was it Jamie Carragher? I don't know. Those two are interchangeable. I think that's a reality, though, for us. We have improved year on year. But there's a point where, just like any athlete, when you train for a specific moment, the day or two after it, are you as strong? We need new blood. We need new energy. We probably need new ideas. I'm not sure we're going to score as many goals from corners as we did last season. I'm not sure we're going to have it our own way. I'm not sure we're going to be able to impose ourselves. We're going to have to, like Pep always does, we're going to have to try something a little bit different. And of course it is possible that Man City have just declined a little bit and will win the league because of that. I don't see anyone else challenging. Man United, to me, I think Xerxes is a good signing. I really watched him a lot when we were linked with him, and I like him. I don't know if he's the difference maker for them. I think they've overpaid for signings again. Chelsea, it's worth a video on its own just talking about Chelsea. An absolute shambles of a club. And Liverpool, that's the biggest surprise. Arne Slot, I think, is going to have his work cut out for him following Jurgen Klopp, but also in not signing anyone. Perhaps we'll see a flurry from them as well. Newcastle, with Pope in goal all season, I think will have a much better season than without the distractions they had last season. Aston Villa, I think, will fall behind a little bit because of Champions League football. And losing Diaby and losing Douglas Luiz, even though they've replaced him with, I'm not even Andre, mate. And I was really pleased to see him score a goal. I was surprised we didn't go for Onana from Everton. Seemed like a price worth paying. And he had a great start to his Premier League career at Aston Villa. And I wish him really well. For some reason, I just really like him. But I don't think Aston Villa are as strong as they were. And so it's down to us and Man City. I'll make that bold prediction. I'm also going to predict that Tottenham may be without a manager by the end of the season. And even more bold prediction, I think this is a season that's going to be really tough for Unai Emery to keep his job as well. Anyway, that's enough from me. These are the reasons I'm not hugely excited yet. Can all change. Of course, we beat Man City and Spurs. We get 12 points from the next 4 games. I am buzzing. If we can continue as consistently as we were last season, if our defence can even improve on last season, then I don't see why we couldn't win the league. And that's what we all want. Although it's a shame they don't give silver medals in football. I know we're never going to, and it's not the way football is, but we did just get 2 silver medals in a row. And for all of the positivity that the country showed those athletes who in the Olympics were able to bring home a silver, perhaps we could show some of the same love to our players. After all, I don't think anyone's arguing they didn't give it everything. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if I'm wildly off, if you're pumped for this season, if it's hugely exciting, if you can't wait to get started. let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if you're hugely excited about the start of the season. If you think this is the year that we're going to do it, I might need you to build me up a little bit. Let me know in the comments. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.